First Contact and Hidden Agendas. The Kraxan vessels appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning, their crystalline ships refracting sunlight across the planet's surface like artificial auroras. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization arrived not with violence, but with a message that echoed through every communication device on Earth. People of Earth, we come in peace and prosperity. We are the Kraxan Empire, travelers of the celestial seas, and we wish to share our knowledge with your developing world. In the United Nations Emergency Assembly, Secretary General Elena Rodriguez stood before representatives from every nation, her voice steady despite the weight of history pressing down upon her shoulders. The holographic display behind her showed the massive Kraxan flagship, its geometric patterns shifting in impossible ways that defied human engineering. We must approach this opportunity with both optimism and caution, she declared. The Kraxans offer us technology beyond our comprehension, but we must ensure our sovereignty remains intact. In the weeks that followed, the Kraxans presented themselves as benevolent mentors. Their ambassador, a towering figure named Zexpal, moved with fluid grace in Earth's gravity. His iridescent scales caught the light in hypnotic patterns, and his 4 eyes seemed to take in everything with calculated interest. He spoke of cultural exchange, technological advancement, and a golden age for both species. But Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, noticed things others missed. The way the Kraxans' eyes lingered on Earth's vast oceans, how their questions always circled back to Earth's biodiversity, the particular interest they showed in human cellular regeneration. In her secure laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Sarah examined tissue samples from their alien visitors. "There's something they're not telling us," she muttered to her colleague, Dr. James Morrison. "Their cellular structure, it's degrading. Slowly, but unmistakably." James leaned over the microscope, his dark eyes narrowing. "You think they're dying. Their entire species might be. Look at these patterns. Their DNA equivalent is breaking down. They're losing their ability to adapt to environmental changes." Above ground, the Kraxans continued their charm offensive. They offered cures for several human diseases, though they always stopped short of sharing their most advanced technology. Their king, Supreme Sovereign Vexnar, appeared only in holographic form, his massive form adorned with crystalline growths that seemed to pulse with inner light. "Your species shows remarkable potential," he would say, his melodious voice carrying an undertone that some found soothing and others disturbing. "Together, we shall forge a future worthy of the stars themselves." But Sarah couldn't shake her growing unease. She compiled her findings, encrypted them, and sent them to military intelligence. The Kraxans' genetic degradation was accelerating. They needed something Earth had in abundance. In his private chambers aboard the flagship, Vexnar received the latest reports from his scientists. "How long?" he demanded. "Without the human genetic material, our species has perhaps 2 generations left. Supreme Sovereign, their adaptive capabilities are the key to our survival." The king's crystalline growths pulsed with angry red light, and they refused to volunteer for the procedures. "They don't know the true extent of what we need. The genetic harvesting process would be fatal to the subjects. Millions would be required." Vexnar rose to his full height, towering over his subordinate. "Then we take what we need. Prepare the fleet. Humanity's potential for violence is impressive, but they are children playing with toys compared to our technological might." On Earth, Sarah's warnings finally reached the right ears. General Michael Chung of the Pan-Asian Defense Force ordered discreet preparations. Civilian bunkers were quietly stocked. Military assets were dispersed. Something in the Kraxans' behavior had changed. Their questions became more pointed, their demonstrations of power more overt. The night before the invasion, Sarah stood on her laboratory's observation deck, watching the crystalline ships glitter against the stars. James joined her, coffee in hand. "You were right," he said quietly. "Intelligence just confirmed unusual energy signatures from their fleet. They're positioning for something big." Sarah's hands gripped the railing. "We're not ready for this." James smiled grimly. "No one ever is, but humanity has a way of surprising everyone, including ourselves." In his throne room, Vexnar initiated the invasion sequence. "Begin the harvest. Humanity's genetic bounty will ensure our empire's eternal dominion over the stars." As the first light of dawn touched Earth's horizon, the Kraxan ship's beautiful crystalline surfaces began to shift, revealing weapon ports and deployment bays. The message that now echoed across Earth's communications was very different from their first greeting. "People of Earth, your planet has been chosen for the glory of preserving the Kraxan Empire. Resist and face extinction. Submit, and some of you may survive to witness our resurrection." In the chaos that followed, Sarah's data became the foundation of Earth's resistance. The Kraxan's genetic weakness would prove to be humanity's first advantage in the coming war. As cities around the world went dark under alien assault, humanity prepared to show the Kraxan Empire exactly what potential for violence truly meant. The invasion had begun, but with it came the first seeds of the invaders' eventual downfall. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would fight, adapt, and prove to their would-be harvesters that underestimating human resilience was the greatest mistake the Kraxan Empire would ever make. The betrayal's dawn. The Kraxan invasion pierced Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their crystalline ships shattering the morning peace with sonic booms that shook cities to their foundations. Their first strike targeted military installations with surgical precision, decades of peaceful observation having revealed every strategic location on Earth's surface. In No Raid's underground command center, General Chang watched as defense systems worldwide went dark. "They're using our own satellite network against us," he growled, watching red dots multiply across the global display. "Everything we ever showed them, every capability we demonstrated. They recorded it all." The Kraxans' initial assault seemed unstoppable. Their energy weapons cut through conventional defenses like paper, their shields deflected missiles, and their electronic warfare systems turned Earth's most advanced fighter jets into useless hunks of metal in the sky. Cities fell silent as power grids failed under targeted electromagnetic pulses. But the Kraxans had made their first critical mistake. They'd broadcast their intentions. "They need us alive." Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the emergency quantum communication network she'd helped develop after first discovering the Kraxans' genetic deterioration. "Their weapons are precise, designed to disable rather than destroy. They're not here to annihilate us. They're here to farm us." In the ruins of Tokyo, a young engineer named Hiroshi Tanaka noticed something else. The Kraxan ground forces, despite their advanced armor and weapons, moved with obvious discomfort under Earth's sun. Their crystalline growths seemed to absorb and refract light in painful ways, forcing them to stick to shadows and covered areas. "Their genetic degradation is making them photosensitive," Sarah confirmed when Hiroshi's observation reached her bunker laboratory. "They've evolved too far from their original form. They're not just losing adaptability, they're becoming vulnerable to basic environmental factors." Above Washington, D.C., Ambassador Zexpal's command ship broadcast demands for surrender. "Your resistance is both futile and unnecessary. Submit to biological processing, and your species will serve the greatest purpose imaginable, ensuring the survival of a superior civilization." The response came not from world leaders, but from thousands of individual radio operators worldwide, a cacophony of defiant human voices. "Come and take us." Humanity's first effective counterattack came from an unexpected source. Dr. James Morrison, working with a team of quantum physicists, discovered that the Kraxans' crystalline technology had a fatal resonance frequency. "Their ships aren't just covered in crystals," he explained to military leadership. "They're grown from living crystalline organisms, and like any crystal, they can shatter if you hit the right note." The first test of this theory came in the skies over Brazil. As a Kraxan harvester ship descended toward Sao Paulo, its hull vibrating with energy fields designed to paralyze human resistance. A hastily modified array of sonic emitters powered up. The sound was barely perceptible to human ears, but the effect on the Kraxan vessel was catastrophic. Fracture lines appeared across its surface like spider webs, spreading until the entire ship cracked apart like breaking glass. King Vexnar raged in his flagship, watching the footage of his harvester's destruction. Impossible. They're primitives. How did they discover the resonance weakness so quickly? Supreme Sovereign, his chief scientist warned, we underestimated their scientific methodology. They don't just use technology. They understand fundamental principles, and they adapt faster than any species we've encountered. On the ground, humanity's resistance grew more organized. Traditional military forces might have been neutralized, but humans excelled at asymmetric warfare. In New Delhi, street vendors used mirror arrays to redirect sunlight at Kraxan ground forces, driving them back with focused beams that exploited their photosensitivity. In Moscow, subway tunnels became death traps for Kraxan search parties, with strategically placed resonator devices shattering their crystalline armor. Sarah Chen worked tirelessly in her underground lab, analyzing captured Kraxan technology. Their genetic structure is even more unstable than we thought, she reported to the Emergency Scientific Council. Every use of their energy weapons, every activation of their shields, it's accelerating their deterioration. They're not just running out of time. They're actively killing themselves trying to conquer us. The Kraxans responded to these setbacks with increased aggression. Their ships began targeting population centers with harvesting beams, drawing thousands of screaming humans into collection chambers. But even this sparked human innovation. Engineers in underground resistance cells developed personal resonator devices, allowing captured humans to shatter their crystalline prison cells from within. President Helena Martinez, broadcasting from a mobile command center, rallied Earth's population. They came expecting to find sheep ready for slaughter. Instead, they found wolves protecting their pack. Every human they take becomes a weapon against them. Every technology they use hastens their own destruction. We will not be their salvation. We will be their reckoning. As the first week of invasion drew to a close, the Kraxans held air superiority and controlled major population centers, but their victory was far from complete. Humanity had lost many battles, but had already won several crucial ones. More importantly, they had learned their enemies' weaknesses and were rapidly developing ways to exploit them. In his throne room, King Vexnar received increasingly disturbing reports. Human resistance was growing stronger, not weaker. Their adaptation rate exceeded all projections. And most worryingly, they seemed to be developing countermeasures faster than the Kraxans could modify their tactics. Perhaps, his military advisor suggested carefully, we should have studied their history more closely. Every time humans have faced extinction, they have emerged stronger. We may have awakened something we cannot control. The king's crystalline growths pulsed with dark energy. Then we will take what we need before they can stop us. Prepare the harvesters for mass extraction. If we cannot break their will, we will take their bodies. Deploy the world enders. But as the Kraxan Empire prepared to escalate the war, humanity was already several steps ahead, preparing surprises that would make their invaders regret ever viewing Earth as an easy target. Humanity strikes back. The world enders emerged from Kraxan ships like falling mountains, massive crystalline structures that dwarfed skyscrapers. They were the Empire's ultimate harvesting weapons, designed to extract genetic material from entire continents. As they descended toward Earth's surface, King Vexnar's voice boomed across all frequencies. Behold your extinction, primitives. Accept your destiny as the foundation of our rebirth. But humanity had been preparing. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the heart of Project Phoenix, a vast underground complex beneath the Australian outback. Around her, thousands of servers processed data from every human resistance cell worldwide. The world enders are exactly what we needed, she announced to the gathered military leaders. They're pure crystalline structures, no biological components to complicate the resonance pattern. In the weeks since the invasion began, humanity had transformed. Traditional military hierarchies had given way to a fluid, adaptive network of resistance cells. Each discovery, each successful tactic was instantly shared across secure quantum channels. The Kraxans had thought they were fighting isolated pockets of resistance. Instead, they faced a unified human consciousness, learning and evolving with every encounter. Hiroshi Tanaka, now leading a team of engineers in repurposed Tokyo subway tunnels, had refined the sonic resonator technology. "We've mapped their entire crystalline structure," he explained over the quantum net. "The world enders aren't just weapons. They're the purest form of Kraxan technology. If we can shatter one, we can shatter them all." James Morrison finished, his hologram flickering in the Australian command center. Their entire technological base uses the same crystalline matrix. It's their greatest strength and their fatal flaw. General Chang's strategy was simple but audacious. Let them deploy the world enders. Let them commit their resources. When a predator is desperate, it makes mistakes. The Kraxans took the bait. World enders descended on every major continent, their massive forms casting shadows over devastated cities. Kane Vexnar, watching from his flagship, allowed himself to feel triumph. Begin the final harvest. Take everything. But as the world enders touched down, humanity revealed its true plan. Hidden in subway systems, sewers, and underground bunkers across the globe, thousands of modified resonator arrays powered up simultaneously. The sound they produced was beyond human hearing, but its effect on crystalline structures was catastrophic. The world enders shattered first, their massive forms exploding into billions of crystalline shards. The resonance cascade spread through all Kraxan technology, sharing the same crystalline matrix. Harvester ships cracked apart in the sky. Ground force armor splintered, leaving soldiers exposed to Earth's hostile sunlight. Even their communication systems, based on crystalline quantum technology, shattered into useless fragments. In his flagship, Kane Vexnar watched in horror as his invasion force quite literally fell to pieces. "Impossible. We are the Kraxan Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "But you never adapted." Sarah Chen's voice came through the few remaining communication channels. "You thought genetic perfection meant changing others to match you. Humanity knows better. We survive because we change. We thrive because we never stop learning." The human counterattack was devastating in its totality. As Kraxan forces struggled with broken technology and environmental exposure, resistance cells emerged from underground bases. Years of special forces training combined with weeks of fighting experience against the invaders made Earth's soldiers lethal opponents. President Martinez coordinated the global offensive from her mobile command center. Push them back to their ships. Let their king watch his perfect empire crumble before imperfect humanity. In Moscow, guerrilla fighters used mirror arrays to drive Kraxan forces into killing zones. In Rio de Janeiro, modified drones deployed sonic weapons that shattered any remaining crystalline technology. In Cairo, resistance fighters used the desert sun itself as a weapon, forcing Kraxan units into carefully prepared traps. But the most significant victory came from an unexpected source. A team of geneticists led by Dr. Chen had been studying captured Kraxan genetic material. "Their deterioration isn't just physical," she reported. "Their entire species chose perfection over adaptability. They became living crystals, beautiful, powerful, but ultimately fragile." This discovery led to humanity's most ironic weapon, a targeted virus that accelerated the Kraxan's own genetic deterioration. Not designed to kill, but to force evolution. "If they want humanity's adaptive capabilities," Sarah explained, "let's give it to them, all at once." The virus spread through the remaining Kraxan forces like wildfire. Their crystalline growths began to crack and fall away. Some soldiers collapsed, their bodies unable to handle rapid genetic changes. Others began to transform, their rigid structures becoming more organic, more adaptable, more human. King Vexnar, watching from his flagship as his ground forces deteriorated into chaos, finally understood his species' fundamental error. They had sought to harvest humanity's genetic adaptability, but they had never considered the price of such evolution, the loss of their perceived perfection. Your choices are simple. General Chang's message reached the Kraxan flagship. Retreat and face extinction, or surrender and let us help you adapt. Unlike you, we don't need to harvest unwilling subjects to share our strength. In the Australian Command Center, Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays as Kraxan forces worldwide fell into disarray. They wanted our genetic adaptability, she said quietly. They never understood that our true strength isn't in our genes, it's in our willingness to change, to learn, to become something new. The war had turned decisively, but humanity's greatest test was still to come. King Vexnar, his empire crumbling around him, would not accept defeat easily. His next action would push both species to their absolute limits, forcing humanity to prove once and for all that adaptability trumped perfection. Humanity strikes back. The world enders emerged from Kraxan ships like falling mountains, massive crystalline structures that dwarfed skyscrapers. They were the Empire's ultimate harvesting weapons, designed to extract genetic material from entire continents. As they descended toward Earth's surface, King Vexnar's voice boomed across all frequencies. Behold your extinction, primitives. Accept your destiny as the foundation of our rebirth. But humanity had been preparing. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the heart of Project Phoenix, a vast underground complex beneath the Australian outback. Around her, thousands of servers processed data from every human resistance cell worldwide. The world enders are exactly what we needed, she announced to the gathered military leaders. They're pure crystalline structures, no biological components to complicate the resonance pattern. In the week since the invasion began, humanity had transformed. Traditional military hierarchies had given way to a fluid, adaptive network of resistance cells. Each discovery, each successful tactic was instantly shared across secure quantum channels. The Kraxans had thought they were fighting isolated pockets of resistance. Instead, they faced a unified human consciousness, learning and evolving with every encounter. Hiroshi Tanaka, now leading a team of engineers in repurposed Tokyo subway tunnels, had refined the sonic resonator technology. We've mapped their entire crystalline structure, he explained over the quantum net. The world enders aren't just weapons. They're the purest form of Kraxan technology. If we can shatter one, we can shatter them all, James Morrison finished, his hologram flickering in the Australian Command Center. Their entire technological base uses the same crystalline matrix. It's their greatest strength and their fatal flaw. General Chang's strategy was simple but audacious. Let them deploy the world enders. Let them commit their resources. When a predator is desperate, it makes mistakes. The Kraxans took the bait. World enders descended on every major continent, their massive forms casting shadows over devastated cities. King Vexnar, watching from his flagship, allowed himself to feel triumph. Begin the final harvest. Take everything. But as the world enders touched down, humanity revealed its true plan. Hidden in subway systems, sewers, and underground bunkers across the globe, thousands of modified resonator arrays powered up simultaneously. The sound they produced was beyond human hearing, but its effect on crystalline structures was catastrophic. The world enders shattered first, their massive forms exploding into billions of crystalline shards. The resonance cascade spread through all Kraxan technology sharing the same crystalline matrix. Harvester ships cracked apart in the sky. Ground force armor splintered, leaving soldiers exposed to Earth's hostile sunlight. Even their communication systems, based on crystalline quantum technology, shattered into useless fragments. In his flagship, King Vexnar watched in horror as his invasion force quite literally fell to pieces. Impossible. We are the Kraxan Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. But you never adapted. Sarah Chen's voice came through the few remaining communication channels. You thought genetic perfection meant changing others to match you. Humanity knows better. We survive because we change. We thrive because we never stop learning. The human counterattack was devastating in its totality. As Crexan forces struggled with broken technology and environmental exposure, resistance cells emerged from underground bases. Years of special forces training combined with weeks of fighting experience against the invaders made Earth's soldiers lethal opponents. President Martinez coordinated the global offensive from her mobile command center. Push them back to their ships. Let their king watch his perfect empire crumble before imperfect humanity. In Moscow, guerrilla fighters used mirror arrays to drive Crexan forces into killing zones. In Rio de Janeiro, modified drones deployed sonic weapons that shattered any remaining crystalline technology. In Cairo, resistance fighters used the desert sun itself as a weapon, forcing Crexan units into carefully prepared traps. But the most significant victory came from an unexpected source. A team of geneticists led by Dr. Chen had been studying captured Crexan genetic material. Their deterioration isn't just physical, she reported. Their entire species chose perfection over adaptability. They became living crystals, beautiful, powerful, but ultimately fragile. This discovery led to humanity's most ironic weapon, a targeted virus that accelerated the Crexan's own genetic deterioration. Not designed to kill, but to force evolution. If they want humanity's adaptive capabilities, Sarah explained, let's give it to them, all at once. The virus spread through the remaining Crexan forces like wildfire. Their crystalline growths began to crack and fall away. Some soldiers collapsed, their bodies unable to handle rapid genetic changes. Others began to transform, their rigid structures becoming more organic, more adaptable, more human. King Vexnar, watching from his flagship as his ground forces deteriorated into chaos, finally understood his species' fundamental error. They had sought to harvest humanity's genetic adaptability, but they had never considered the price of such evolution, the loss of their perceived perfection. Your choices are simple. General Chang's message reached the Crexan flagship. Retreat and face extinction, or surrender and let us help you adapt. Unlike you, we don't need to harvest unwilling subjects to share our strength. In the Australian Command Center, Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays as Crexan forces worldwide fell into disarray. They wanted our genetic adaptability, she said quietly. They never understood that our true strength isn't in our genes. It's in our willingness to change, to learn, to become something new. The war had turned decisively, but humanity's greatest test was still to come. King Vexnar, his empire crumbling around him, would not accept defeat easily. His next action would push both species to their absolute limits, forcing humanity to prove once and for all that adaptability trumped perfection. The hunt for the Crexan king. King Vexnar's response to humanity's counterattack was as brutal as it was desperate. His flagship, the last vessel with intact crystalline systems, unleashed a devastating energy pulse that ionized Earth's upper atmosphere, temporarily blinding all satellite communications and defense systems. If we cannot have your adaptation, his transmission burned through the electronic silence, then we shall ensure no one survives to adapt at all. The flagship began a controlled descent through Earth's atmosphere, its remaining crystalline structure reconfiguring into something unprecedented. The massive vessel transformed into a doomsday weapon, channeling the combined power of its fusion reactors into a device designed to trigger a chain reaction in Earth's magnetic core. In the Australian Command Center, Sarah Chen's instruments registered the building energy signature. He's going to try to destroy the planet rather than admit defeat, she announced to the Emergency Council. Classic cornered tyrant syndrome. Can we stop it? General Chang demanded. Not from here. Hiroshi Tanaka's hologram flickered as he studied the energy readings. The resonance weapons won't work anymore. He's modified the crystalline structure. We need to get inside that ship. James Morrison stepped forward, his face illuminated by the holographic displays. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Sarah, remember that genetic virus we deployed? I've been studying its effects on captured Kraxan soldiers. The ones who survived. They're changing in fascinating ways. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. They're becoming human enough to help us. Operation Kingslayer came together in hours, a plan as audacious as it was desperate. A small team would infiltrate the flagship using a captured Kraxan shuttle, guided by former Kraxan soldiers whose genetic transformation had given them a unique perspective, the ability to think both as Kraxans and humans. The strike team assembled in a hardened bunker beneath Rio de Janeiro, the closest secure facility to the flagship's descent path. Captain Maya Santos, a Brazilian Special Forces operator with a dozen successful raids against Kraxan ground forces, led the human contingent. Beside her stood Zextor, formerly a Kraxan commander, now something neither fully Kraxan nor human. The king's arrogance will be his undoing, Zextor explained, his crystalline features now softened with organic tissue. He believes his transformation chamber will protect him from the virus, but it's actually concentrating the effect. Every moment he spends in there, trying to maintain his perfect form, makes him more unstable. Maya checked her modified resonator weapon, now tuned to the flagship's specific frequency. How long do we have before he triggers the core destabilizer? 3 hours, Sarah Chen's voice came through their quantum communicators, the only technology still functioning through the ionized atmosphere. After that, the chain reaction becomes irreversible. The mission launched under cover of a magnetic storm, a side effect of the flagship's power buildup that actually worked in humanity's favor, hiding their approach from the vessel's remaining functional sensors. The captured shuttle, piloted by Zextor, slipped through gaps in the flagship's failing shield grid. The virus has spread through the ship's biological components, Zextor reported as they docked. Most of the crew is either incapacitated or experiencing transformation. The king's personal guard will be our biggest obstacle. They're in sealed environments. Maya led her team through corridors littered with crystalline debris and transformed Kraxan soldiers. Some reached out to them, their once rigid bodies now soft and vulnerable, seeking help. Others lay motionless, their bodies having failed to survive the rapid evolution. The path to the king's transformation chamber was a gauntlet of automated defenses and loyal guards. But here, the changed Kraxans proved invaluable. They understood the ship's layout, the guard rotations, and most importantly, the psychology of their former brethren. They're not fighting for victory anymore, Zextor explained as they evaded another patrol. They're fighting because they don't know how to stop. The perfect soldier, unable to adapt to peace. The team fought their way through several checkpoints, their resonator weapons shattering the remaining crystalline technology and armor. Maya's human soldiers moved with practiced precision, while their Kraxan allies provided crucial intelligence and counterbalanced their former comrades' tactics. Finally, they'd reached the transformation chamber's outer doors. Inside, King Vexnar's power signature pulsed like a dying star. The chamber's viewing window revealed his massive form, now a grotesque hybrid of crystal and organic matter, as the virus fought against his desperate attempts to maintain his perfect form. "Your Majesty," Zextor called through the intercom, "you can still survive this. Accept the change as we have. Learn to adapt." The king's response was a roar that shook the entire chamber. "I am perfection. I am the pinnacle of evolution. I will not debase myself with adaptation." Sarah's voice crackled through their comms. "The core destabilizer is at 80% power. Whatever you're going to do it fast." Maya looked at her team, humans and transformed Kraxans standing together. "The hard way, then. Breach and clear. Try to take him alive, but the planet's survival is priority one." As they prepared to breach the chamber, Vexnar's voice boomed one final time. "You think you've won. Your adaptation will be your doom. When this is over, you won't even be human anymore." Maya chambered around in her resonator rifle. "Being human was never about staying the same, Your Majesty. It's about choosing to change." The breach charges detonated, and the final battle for Earth's survival began, but not in the way anyone, human or Kraxan, could have predicted. Victory in the streets. The transformation chamber exploded inward in a shower of crystalline shards and superheated steam. King Vexnar emerged from the chaos like a nightmare-given form, a towering monstrosity of crystal and flesh, neither fully Kraxan nor anything nature ever intended. The genetic virus had transformed him, but his desperate resistance to change had created something monstrous. "Look upon your handiwork," he roared, his voice distorted by crystalline growths that burst from his throat. "Is this the adaptation you prize so much?" Maya's strike teams scattered as energy beams erupted from the crystal formations growing from the king's body. Each blast left molten holes in the chamber's reinforced walls. "His body is channeling the core destabilizer's energy," Zextor shouted. "He's becoming a living weapon." "Sarah," Maya called through the quantum comm while diving behind a fallen support beam, "please tell me you have something." "The energy readings are off the scale," Sarah's voice crackled with interference. "But there's a pattern. His crystalline structures are trying to maintain their rigid form while his organic tissue adapts. The conflict is making him unstable." "Less science, more solution," Maya replied as another energy blast nearly vaporized her position. "Get him to the surface." Sarah's response was immediate. "His new form is highly photosensitive. Direct sunlight might." The ceiling exploded upward as Vexnar, understanding their plan, decided to take the battle to his chosen ground. His mutated form crashed through deck after deck of the flagship, heading for the open sky. Maya's team pursued, using emergency gravity systems in their tactical gear to navigate the vertical battlefield. "All Earth forces," General Chang's voice broadcast globally, "converge on Rio de Janeiro. Operation Sunfall is now in effect." The king burst from his flagship into the morning sky above Rio's streets, his crystalline body refracting sunlight in painful arcs. The sight of him triggered panic in the streets below, civilians fleeing as this horror from beyond the stars descended into their city. But humanity was ready. Mirror arrays, originally designed to drive back Kraxan ground forces, swiveled to track the king's movement. High-powered ultraviolet lasers, repurposed from industrial cutting tools, powered up on rooftops. The entire city had been transformed into a weapon. "You adapt your technology, your tactics." Vexnar's voice boomed across the city as he unleashed energy blasts at the human emplacements. "But you forget. I have adapted too. I am beyond either of our species now." "Wrong." Maya's voice cut through his tirade as her team rappelled down to street level. "You didn't adapt. You mutated. There's a difference." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The monster that had once been the Kraxan king rampaged through Rio's streets, each step leaving crystalline formations that spread like cancer through the infrastructure. But everywhere he turned, humanity's preparations met him. Coordinated strikes from UV lasers and mirror arrays forced him to constantly move, preventing him from focusing his energy attacks. Sonic resonators, carefully tuned to the new frequency of his crystalline structures, caused him constant pain. And through it all, Maya's team harried him with precision strikes, targeting the increasingly unstable joins between crystal and flesh. "The genetic virus is still working," Sarah reported through the tactical net. "His attempts to maintain his crystalline form while his body tries to adapt are tearing him apart at a cellular level. Keep pushing." In desperation, Vexnar tried to climb one of Rio's tallest buildings, seeking shade from the intensifying morning sun. But as he reached the halfway point, Hiroshi's voice came through the comms. "Now." The building's entire surface suddenly transformed. Panels flipped, revealing mirrors that had been installed during the week of preparation. The king found himself surrounded by reflected sunlight from every angle, his crystalline body acting like a prism to focus the energy inward. "You wanted our adaptation," Maya called out as the king's form began to fracture. "Here it is. This is humanity at its finest, turning your own strength against you, adapting our environment, working together to overcome impossible odds." Vexnar's response was a scream of pure rage that shattered windows for blocks around. He leaped from the building, his mutated form beginning to break apart under the assault of light and sound. He crashed into the street below, creating a crater in the pavement. Maya's team surrounded the crater, resonator weapons ready. In its center lay Vexnar, his once massive form shrinking as the crystalline structures crumbled away. The genetic virus, finally unopposed, began its work in earnest. "Kill me," the king gasped, his voice now barely more than a whisper. "Prove that your adaptation has made you the monsters I always feared you were." Maya lowered her weapon. "No, you're going to live. You're going to adapt, like the rest of your people. And you're going to learn that change doesn't mean losing yourself. It means becoming more than you were." In the days that followed, the remaining Kraxan forces surrendered. The transformed survivors, led by Zextor, began the difficult process of rebuilding their society, learning to balance their desire for perfection with the necessity of adaptation. The former king, now stripped of his crystalline growths, was held in a special facility where Dr. Chen and her team helped him through his transformation. His presence on Earth's surface, once intended as a symbol of humanity's submission, became instead a testament to their capacity for mercy. "You never understood," Sarah told him during one of their sessions. "Humanity isn't special because we adapt. We're special because we choose how to adapt. We can choose to become better, not just stronger." As Earth rebuilt from the invasion, the transformed Kraxans integrated into human society, bringing their technology and wisdom while learning the value of imperfection and change. The streets where the king had fallen became a memorial, not to victory in battle, but to victory over the fear of change itself. And in the vastness of space, word spread of how humanity had not only defeated but transformed one of the galaxy's most powerful empires, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through their greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to change, and to help others do the same. The day the alien king was dragged through Earth's streets became legend, not for the violence of his defeat, but for the mercy that followed, and the lessons both species learned about the true meaning of evolution.